Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining NextLabs and Siemens for the Next Generation in Manufacturing, Are Your Secrets Safe? My name is Monique, and I'm happy to be hosting this webinar. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Guy Bursell from Siemens PLM. Guy is a product manager with Siemens PLM and is responsible for the industry-leading Teamcenter application suite. Guy has over 14 years of experience delivering innovative solutions in multiple industry segments, including aerospace, high-tech, defense, and heavy machinery. Bill Armstrong is also joining us for this webinar, and Bill is a senior sales engineer at NextLabs. He specializes in solutions focused on enterprise digital rights management and integration with Siemens Teamcenter. Bill has over 5 years of experience delivering IT security, compliance, and administrative solutions to the enterprise. I will now turn the presentation over to Guy.
Okay, thanks, Monique. So for today's session, I'm going to spend a bit of time just talking about the business drivers behind this topic of the next generation of manufacturing and Are Your Secrets Safe? I'm going to wrap this up with a few words about the Siemens NextLabs partnership and the importance that it plays in this space before I hand you over to Bill Armstrong from NextLabs, who's going to take you through the use cases and a demo. After that, then we'll have a little bit of time at the end for any Q&A. Okay, so before we really get into this, I just want to take a level set. So what is EDRM, or Enterprise Digital Rights Management? And I think we can very succinctly sum this up as the persistent control of access to and the usage of digital information regardless of where it exists, be it inside or outside your systems or firewalls. So for Teamcenter, ultimately, we persistently protect data both within the environment and then outside of the environment, whether the files are downloaded, shared, or emailed, for example. Okay, so I want to introduce you to additive manufacturing, which is an industry standard term for all applications of the technology. It's an increasingly inclusive reference that we see in industry news, and here's just one example from September this year of a new additive technology center opening. Okay, so this is all really driving Industry 4.0, or what we also refer to as the fourth industrial revolution, which focuses on the digital transformation of industries, of which additive manufacturing is one of the key components. And this is where we really start to see virtual data merging with real production equipment. You know, additive technologies like 3D printing, which we're going to look at here, are just one of the latest twists on manufacturing in this space. Additive manufacturing is also an area that Siemens are heavily investing in and strengthening our footprint. As you can see here from a recent press release. And really, to sum up additive manufacturing, you know, this refers to a process by which our digital 3D design data is used to build up layers by depositing material. And when we talk about 3D design data, we're talking about our 3D CAD, simulation, manufacturing. It's a very broad set of data that we're talking about here. Okay. The market for additive manufacturing is forecast to grow exponentially, as you can see here, over the next 5 years. And really, some of the drivers behind that, you know, manufacturing becomes cheaper and faster. Just as cheaper bandwidth allows us to stream videos and look at Netflix today, and you know, just look at how hardware has really revolutionized the cloud. We look at items such as Amazon Web Services. You know, these are just some of the driving trends towards what we're seeing as a real exponential growth in the digital manufacturing enterprise. So this all amounts to a real paradigm shift they're produced. And what we're seeing here when we're driving within Industry 4.0, when we look at the Internet of Things, you know, we're seeing data traveling further. We're seeing data connected in ways that haven't been possible before. You know, we look at big data and analytics. We're able to interpret and analyze data, again, just like we've never been able to before. And here, really, data is the key. So we have a digital thread that moves all the way through design to manufacturing. And the data becomes the real driver for the whole process. Okay. Okay, as you can see here, there's another press release. The investments that Siemens are making in this area are yielding a new set of additive manufacturing end-to-end solutions in this domain. These include not only CAD, but simulation, manufacturing, and entire platform support. Okay, and if we really look at this, additive manufacturing is a shift in the value chain. This is where the value no longer rests in the objects that are being produced. And the value rests within the design of an object, its digital definition. Okay, and ultimately the CAD files now are more valuable than the end product itself. So why is EDRM so important? What really is driving this? Well, let's look at a real-world example here. Okay, if we look at this car, here we go from concept through 3D printout to final product. Roughly 75% of this car is 3D printed, and nearly all of the chassis, the panels that you see here, they're all 3D printed. And very shortly, in this example, we'll be looking at up to 90% of the car being 3D printed. And to put that into context, in this example, they went from a design to a concept in a little over 2 months. Okay, data has to travel further. We're sending our data out to manufacturers that are more globally dispersed. Okay, manufacturing really is starting to become ubiquitous. And stealing data and the opportunities, that's really the future. Siemens are dealing with the end-to-end process with data being managed by Teamcenter. Files are protected both at rest and in motion. We provide world-class access to files within the environment. Okay. Additive manufacturing is becoming a game changer, especially as our data needs to travel further. And the biggest concern here is IP protection with 3D printing. Okay, so protecting against data hacking or stealing your data, your intellectual property is becoming a real critical priority. The challenge itself is protecting the data so you don't lose it. The data is the value. And I mentioned earlier, we have the use of CAD, we have the use of simulation, various manufacturing applications. We can derive stereolithography definition from our CAD. We use intermediate formats like STEP. This is where all the real crucial value is in our data. So, having said all of that, why the Siemens and NextLabs partnership? Well, Siemens and NextLabs came together in a partnership to provide an indent solution to address the very challenges that I've been discussing here. Securing our digital design definition in all its guises and protecting your IP. We automate the applying and managing of the DRM itself within Teamcenter, and we start to remove the manual processes that we see users using to protect the data. Now, this in itself is a risk. So key to enabling secure collaboration is another key factor. The system should not become a barrier. And this really allows you to have confidence that your data is protected no matter where it goes or with whom, whether it's within your company or outside. Okay, we support protecting data within Teamcenter, what we know as at rest, okay, as well as when a file, for example, is shared outside of Teamcenter. Somebody puts it on a thumb drive, it's emailed, for example. Okay, and this is what we call in motion, okay, where we continue to provide that level of protection. And I think it's safe to say from the first slide, when I looked at the definition of EDRM, one of the key points to pull out there is persistence. We ensure that we are persistently protecting your data. So having said all of this, I'm now going to hand you over to Bill Armstrong from NextLabs, who's going to take you through some of the use case scenarios and a demonstration.
Okay, thank you, Guy. So over the next few slides, we're going to take a look at a demonstration, and I'll also reiterate some of the key concepts that Guy just went over, showing how our data is affected when sending it to manufacturing or shared externally, and how do we protect it. So without EDRM, there's no control over what happens to our IP after it leaves network and after it's sent to manufacturing. So this is a look at what the landscape looks like today without any protection. So we have a user creating IP and uploading it to Teamcenter. That data is then downloaded by, say, an internal user from Teamcenter and then shared externally. So in this case, we're talking about sending that data to an additive manufacturing facility, so sending it to 3D printing. And in this case, we don't have any control over what happens to that file. So we don't know, so there's no way to control how many of this item is being manufactured. So we have no control over that. We don't have any control over if that file has been shared after the fact. Really no way to protect our IP once that data has left Teamcenter and has been sent externally. And that includes use cases where we've sent data to an external unknown third party. So at this point, our IP is lost and we have no control over it. So how do we resolve these types of issues? And so that's going to be with EDRM. So with EDRM, we can control what happens to our IP and how it's consumed after it's been shared, or in this case, after it's been sent to manufacturing. So same use case, user creates IP, uploads it to Teamcenter. It's then downloaded. So this is actually a protected file now. And when it's sent to manufacturing, we now have controls over being able to protect, do things like control how many of a certain item has been manufactured. So we have those types of controls to expire access to files. We make sure that that data is not shared with another third party, that we make sure that that data, that design is not being manufactured for another company. We now have full protection over it. And that's also the same scenario where when we can control data now when it's shared with a third party, with a known user in this case. So we make sure that our IP is now protected from end to end, whether it's sent to manufacturing or shared with suppliers or another company that we're collaborating with. So we'll look at a demonstration. So just to reiterate, NextLabs protects IP through the design and manufacturing processes. The combination of NextLabs and Siemens Teamcenter, we're the only company that can make sure that that data is protected through both processes. Some of the design process risks are accidental data leakage, so somebody accidentally sharing data with a third party that they're not supposed to, insider threats, or user downloading IP and sharing it with a third party that they're not supposed to, data being shared with partners, not being able to have control over that after the fact. So that's all during the design process. And then the manufacturing process risks are we have no manufacturing controls without EDRM. So there's no way to control how many of an item has been produced, no way to control who that item is being produced for after the fact. The data, our IP is getting into the hands of competitors. With EDRM, we can help solve these types of issues. So we're going to look at that demonstration now. So in our demonstration, there's 3 companies involved. So there's the fighter aircraft company that's creating the IP and protecting their data, Replicate Engineering Company, who is a competitor, who in this case is stealing IP, and then our additive manufacturing company who's actually doing the production of the item. So in this case, in the first case, we're talking about design process collaboration, so protecting the data through the design process. So Sally is creating IP, uploading it to Teamcenter, and Joe is downloading it and sharing it. So Sally's going to log into Teamcenter, view the file. So in this case, we're looking at the design, so an aircraft part, similar to the scenario guy illustrated. And then in this case, since we don't have the data is not protected, Joe accesses and downloads this design from Teamcenter. So we now have an unprotected file that's outside of Teamcenter, outside of our network, that could now be shared. We have no control over that. So Joe's downloading the file in this case, saving it, and then transferring it. So in this case, you might transfer it through, say, external storage, and he's sending this data to our competitor in this case. We have no control over this IP. We don't know what's happened to it. Now, especially in the case with additive manufacturing, it's really easy for our competitor to start producing this item. They just have to send it to manufacturing. And so there's no, with additive manufacturing, the barrier is far lower to be able to start actually producing these items. So which means it's even more important to be able to protect our IP with these advances in manufacturing technology. Same idea, so this is another use case where the unprotected, so this is protecting the data during the manufacturing process. Unprotected data, unprotected design sent to manufacturing. So same case, Sally creates IP, uploads it to Teamcenter, although in this case, we're knowingly transferring it to the manufacturing facility for 3D printing. But in this case, we still don't have any controls because the file's not protected. So unprotected IP means no controls around printing and manufacturing, so we don't have any control over the number of items that are being printed. or manufactured. So they have unlimited printing capability. We don't have any control over that without protected files. And then from there, the file can continue to be shared, so we don't have any control over what happens to our IP once it's actually sent to the facility. And also, access never expires. So once we have those files shared, we don't have any way to control what happens to them being able to expire access. So these two scenarios are great scenarios for EDRM and things that we can actually address through NextLabs EDRM and our integration with Siemens Teamcenter. So in this case, the confidential IP is leaked outside the company, so unauthorized third parties can now use this data to easily manufacture these designs without any need to reverse engineer. No constraints on manufacturing. Unmanaged, unprotected IP is a big risk. So we're going to address these cases. So now we're going to look at that case with protected data. So Sally is now going to create IP, upload a design that she's going to upload to Teamcenter. And now with NextLabs, we're actually going to send that data to be protected automatically. So we're going to encrypt that data, rights protect it, and make sure that we have controls over that data downstream when it's shared, when it's sent to manufacturing, or when it's shared with third parties. So this data has now been encrypted, and then it's sent to manufacturing. So we'll take a look at how this is affected. So this is the demo where Sally logs in, views the IP, and then in this case, we're actually going to protect that file. So there's a couple different ways to do it. We can automatically protect that file, or in this case, Sally is going to manually protect that file. So she's going to right-click on the file in Teamcenter and protect it. So this is going to encrypt that data. And then so we can see now that the data has been encrypted. And then now she's going to download that design and send it to manufacturing. So she downloads the file. This is now the protected design. And when we look at the protected file, we can actually see some of the properties that we're going to be using to control access to this data through policies. So some of the things that follow the file to make sure that this data remains protected. So we can see the IP owner. So in this case, that's the fighter aircraft company, the company that actually created the IP, the name of the design. In this case, we're going to allow a specific manufacturer to be able to print this design. So we're giving this manufacturer the capability to manufacture this design, but we now have some controls in place. So we're going to make sure that access to this design expires January 1st of 2017. So we make sure that once this date hits, no one can open this file, no one can manufacture it. It can't be shared with third parties. We don't have to be concerned about data leakage or data getting into the wrong hands because the file is protected. We're actually going to put a manufacturing limit in this case also. So we're going to say that only 100 of this design can be printed. So this helps us with monetizing the manufacturing process. So we make sure that only a specific amount of our design is being printed and that manufacturer can't print additional designs for third parties. So this is another look at this is another use case. So in the first case, we looked at what happens when a protected file is sent to manufacturing. In this case, we're talking about protected IP being leaked to a competitor. So same case where Joe has downloaded the file from Teamcenter to be shared with a third party. But in this case, we have a protected file. So Joe tries to transfer this file to Replicate Engineering Corporation, to our competitor, but this file can't be opened because of the rights protection that are in place. So we're protecting our IP. The same process. So we're also going to look at the demo where we're actually sending the file to be sent to manufacturing. So in this case, we have the file that's now been downloaded from Teamcenter. So we go to our downloads. This is actually a file that's been shared with that third party. So either it's been sent to manufacturing or it's been sent to the third party. They're downloading that file and they're going to try to actually view it offline after the file access has expired or after they've manufactured a certain number of that item. So we go into our files, we go to the downloads, try to view that protected design. And then when we try to open up that file in NX or any application for that matter, we get access denied. So the rights protection is in place. So whenever an unauthorized third party tries to open up that file, they're going to get access denied because of the rights protection, because of the encryption. Or in this case, the manufacturer tries to open up that file to print it past the allotted number of items there to manufacture or past the date that access is expired. And in this case, they get access denied. So we make sure in this case that once a file has been protected in Teamcenter, we make sure that that IP is protected downstream, no matter who it's been shared with, or also putting controls in place around manufacturing. So in this case, as the manufacturing, we make sure that it's very easy to now manufacture our designs. So we need to make sure that we have these types of controls in place to be able to limit how many of an item's been produced or what happens to our IP after it's been sent to manufacturing. So our confidential IP is now protected. Unauthorized third parties cannot open or print the protected files. Protected files can only be opened by authorized users, such as the manufacturer that's been specified via the policy, unless access is expired. So access expiration could happen based on a date in this case, or the constraints on manufacturing. So it's now possible to put constraints on manufacturing all through our EDRM solution. So we now have managed and protected IP. And this greatly reduces the risk when we're talking in scenarios now. There's a lot of external collaboration going on, especially when you're talking about working with suppliers and partners. But now we're adding another layer where we're sending actual designs to manufacturing, 3D printing, and now so we need to remove risk in that case too. So this is a summary of what we can help address through NextLabs EDRM solution and our integration with Siemens Teamcenter. So solutions fully integrated with Teamcenter. We systematically protect IP inside and outside of an organization while enabling collaboration. So we're still simplifying the process for collaborating with suppliers, with partners, and also with manufacturers to be able to print our designs, but also making sure that our data, that our IP remains protected. Supports all engineering data types, so file type agnostic. We can support any type of data through our Teamcenter integration. The important one being able to enable limits around usage and manufacturing, so making sure that data access expires after our design's been manufactured, or being able to control how many of an item is being manufactured, and being able to terminate data access based on time limits. This is just an overview of our organization. So NextLabs was founded in 2004. We're based out of San Mateo, California. Siemens is obviously a very big partner of ours, and you can see some of our clients that we've worked with to help create solutions like this to help put controls in place to be able to protect IP. So that's everything that we wanted to address via the demo. I think at this point we just wanted to open up the floor to questions.
Okay, thank you, Bill. We do have a couple of questions that came in. The first one is, how much data is typically lost when sending data to manufacturing? How big of a concern is this?
That's a very good question, and it's an extremely difficult one to quantify. Some of the reasons behind that are, and if you look back to the Sony hack, they really did not want to tell anybody because of the impact to their company that how much of their back catalog, the titles in their catalog, had been stolen. So it is an extremely difficult one to quantify, and there are good reasons why there's no real quantification out there. But I always like to look at it in a different way. If you consider that a competitor getting hold of your digital design definition files in another country, okay, for your flagship product, if they can produce that and say take 50% of your market share, that small number of files, you can very easily start to put a quantifiable value, a dollar amount, to what it means to your company.
Okay, thank you. The next question that has come in, during this webinar, you discussed protecting data sent to manufacturing. Can this solution be used to protect the rest of the data in Teamcenter, not just what's sent to manufacturing?
Sure, I'll take that one. So absolutely. We addressed the manufacturing piece during the demonstration, but we can also protect any data within Teamcenter. So designs can be protected. So whether or not they're being sent to manufacturing, we make sure that data is protected, even if it's being shared with other third parties. And also we have the same types of capabilities to be able to protect data of all file types across the enterprise. So within Teamcenter, but also being able to protect data through other solutions too. So being able to protect data across the enterprise is definitely something that we're capable of.
Great. So with that question, we are just about out of time. So I'd like to thank both of you, Guy and Bill, for the great presentation. And everybody on the call, before we end today's call, I'd like to encourage each of you to reach out if you have more questions, to schedule a meeting or a demo if you would like. And you can send those requests to me. I'm Monique Hodgkinson, monique.hodgkinson@nextlabs.com. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar in the next week, so please keep an eye out for it in your email. And again, thank you for joining us today. We hope the session has been informative to you, and this now concludes the NextLabs Siemens PLM webinar. Thank you again for joining us today.